Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to Paisano's Music and Vinyl Talk. I am Paisano, joined by my lovely co-host, Genevieve.
Hey, Queenie.
We're going to talk about the Yardbirds tonight and their greatest hits. I always thought this was just like, thrown together after the fact, but this puppy was released in the United States in March of 1967. This is obviously a reissue, but it is the first compilation ever in the United States of Yardbirds music. Now, the Yardbirds were part of the first British invasion with the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and groups like that. They were bluesier and more R&B based than most of them. Most of them had what was known as the Mersey sound, which was typical of the Beatles had the Mersey sound. Mersey being a reference to the Mersey River in Liverpool, England. The Yardbirds boasted the launching pad of arguably three of the greatest guitarists ever in rock history, the three being Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page. All did time with the Yardbirds. Let's talk about subscriptions. Let's get that out of the way. Genevieve's favorite subject. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We talk about
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll here, yep. Exactly, Genevieve, well said. And if you've been watching some of the videos and freeloading, please don't do that. Please. Stop leeching off Paisano's extensive musical knowledge and subscribe. All right? Right? Do you agree with that? Do you agree? Oh, boy. All right, let's continue with tonight's album. Stop kicking Daddy's albums.
Did I ask?
Please, come on. All right. I bought this. It was one of my first records I ever bought. It's probably the second vinyl I ever bought. I owned a few cassettes before this. But it's between Pink Floyd's Relics, which was a greatest hits. I didn't even know it. I'll be reviewing that at some point. There's quite a story behind that one. And this one, I think it was Pink Floyd Relics and then the Yardbirds' greatest hits. I think that's the order it went in. But I've owned it since the very early 80s. And it plays well. There's no skips, but it's definitely a well-played album. There's no doubt about it. It's a short album, comes in at just over 30 minutes and 26 seconds. And almost all of these are studio recordings, except for there's a live version of Smokestack Lightning on here that comes off of Having a Rave Up with the Yardbirds. And I think there's another live one on here too. Huh. I can't remember. I think there's another live one on here. But this had all 6 of the Yardbirds' American A-sides up to this time. Eric Clapton left pretty early on after arguably their biggest hit, For Your Love, which kicks off side 1 of this. He left thinking they were going in a much more commercial direction that he wanted to. He wanted to stay purely a blues band. He was a real blues purist. And he left, and in comes Jeff Beck, and Jeff Beck spent quite a few years with the Yardbirds. I mean, they weren't around all that long. I can't say quite a few, but he was the longest tenured guitarist with them. And Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck both shared lead guitar duties very briefly. And then Jeff Beck left, and Jimmy Page was left with the Yardbirds name, believe it or not. And he formed a little-known group called Led Zeppelin. And the initial dates, I believe, in Scandinavia in the fall of 1968, I believe there were 2 or 3 dates done as the new Yardbirds before they changed their name to Led Zeppelin. Little known back there. Let's go over the track listing, shall we?
No.
Don't argue with me. Sassy.
No.
Side 1, For Your Love. Side 2, Over, Under, Sideways, Down. I Wish You Would. I'm a Man. Good Morning Little Schoolgirl. New York City Blues. And Happenings 10 Years Time Ago. Now, the first time I heard Happenings 10 Years Time Ago, that blew my 14-year-old head off. It was Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page both collaborating on lead guitar duties, and that was a very progressive song, very psychedelic and heavy for the time. Side 2, Heart Full of Soul, You're a Better Man Than I, Evil-Hearted You, Shapes of Things, Still I'm Sad, Smokestack Lightning, and finishes up with I'm Not Talking. Now, the Yardbirds influenced quite a few bands, especially ones that where the lead singer sang as well as played harmonica. And two that really come to mind are Led Zeppelin and Aerosmith cites the Yardbirds as a major influence. So much that one of their biggest hits is a cover of a song that the Yardbirds made famous. It wasn't they didn't write it, but it was a rock and roll staple called "Train Kept a Rollin'." The Yardbirds had a very popular version of it, and Aerosmith, made it a lot heavier, and had a big hit with it for their album "Get Your Wings." Let's look at the vinyl. This came out on Line Records, I believe. They were a subsidiary of Charlie Records. Both little-known labels nowadays. I don't know how popular they were back in the day. Vinyl. Like I said, it played real good, but obviously well-loved, well-played. A lot of surface noise, a lot of background noise, but no real skips. All right. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I know Genevieve wants to thank you from the bottom of her heart.
Nice.
Tune in on Monday night, and we will draw the album for next week. Very exciting time, the album draw, right?
Yes.
The Pittsburgh Pirates hat holds many tales yet. Notice I switched from the black to the yellow. Mixing it up. Monday night, I'll run my fingers through here and pick out another album and give you my heartfelt thoughts on it next weekend. All right, once again, thanks again, you too. Good night.
Bye.